What's up, everybody? It's Crux here with Crux of Crypto, and we're having a pretty bearish day. You can see the red lights. They have come out to play, but there's a little bit of glimmers of hope there. We got Kaspa. We got some big news for Kaspa. That's why it's a little green back there. And I'm overly optimistic still. You know, I'm still rocking the shirtle. It says HODL. It's not time to sell. And I have a lot to talk about today. So I see a couple people. We got Carl. Congratulations on the moderator status. If you're here and you're early and you're active, I will hand out those moderator statuses. So, you know, definitely be active. Even if you post in the comments after this live is up, I definitely remember who's here and who's being active. So I see a couple new faces in here, which is awesome. Isaac, me too, because it dumped, and curious to hear if you're still bullish on it. Yeah, so a lot of people are already asking in the comments about Keeta. And I'll talk a little bit about this at the end of the stream. I'm not going to talk about it too much because there's a ton of projects right now. Crypto, the space is blowing up, and it's mainly BNB. Binance is actively disrupting the space, and you can see it in the BNB token. We're very close to all-time highs over there, and it has depegged somewhat from Bitcoin. So those are the type of trends I look at as an analyst, and how do we make money off of this? So again, Carl, welcome. James, has Crux put the new Keeta video out yet, or does it come out later today or tomorrow? So that video will come out tomorrow at this time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard on Friday. James says he's looking forward to it. We got Yo Roy saying, "What up, Crux? Cat in the Hat, one of the OGs in our community. Welcome." What's up, Crux? Says Brandon. What is up, guys? And then Conrad, is Mamo still legit? Well, I definitely think it is. And before I jump into Mamo, I think I'm going to give an overall trending take of the markets, and then I'll do that right at the end of this. So, as an analyst, I constantly check the trending cryptos, and I try to figure out how do we profit off of this. You see that we're at about $3.845 trillion market cap overall. That's about 10% down from our 3.3 trillion all-time, or a $4.3 trillion all-time high crypto market cap. And I think this is like the best metric to figure out what is the overall state of the market. Now, if I was to look at the fear and greed, we're probably sitting much closer to around 40 or maybe even sub 40. And that's not the best. So usually whenever you go closer to like the 20s, that's the best time to buy. So right now, I would definitely be holding off on buying a lot of these different plays. But speaking of buying, let's find what we should be looking at. So again, this is not financial advice. I'm just going to run quickly through the trending cryptos, and then we'll jump over into Mamo and then the news. All right. So Plasma, you see it on the thumbnail. It's a little bit eerie. It's blurred. It's back there. I threw it in the title because today it launched. This is an interesting play here because we know Tether does not have a public company. So Tether is crushing it over there with the amount of traction that's going on with USDT, but Tether is starting to push out to make these other networks. Last week I started talking about STBL, and I'll talk about it here shortly. As you can see, about halfway up the page, you see that STBL token. Tether is really branching out, and Plasma is kind of a play based off of what Tether is currently doing. And a lot of cryptocurrencies are starting to migrate towards just this big network. It's starting to feel kind of like a monopoly here in crypto. You know, the USDCs can't compete. RLUSD is struggling in terms of competing with Tether. And what is going to stop this beast? I'll tell you what's not going to stop it is all these L1s that are popping up that are allowing liquidity to flow. So moving on, we got some Aster and Avantis. I actually got my first exposure to both of these plays yesterday. So sometimes you buy the top, and that's okay. You know, I'm probably down at least 10% on both of them, which is fine. That's just part of the risk. Usually you don't buy stuff after it's pumped. And, you know, going into like, let's just say we start going bullish from here, I definitely expect these two plays to continue doing well. These are derivative exchanges. Aster is more focused on the BNB network, while Avantis is a base network play. I like Avantis for the asymmetric risk of something sub 500 mil market cap. But then you also look at Aster, which dethroned Hyperliquid yesterday, which has a market cap about 5 times bigger. Actually more. Hyperliquid, I think, is close to about a 12 bill market cap. So that's actually 4x in terms of the overall market cap. But again, Binance, what they're touching right now all turns to gold. And we know CZ is backing Aster. So Undead Games, this thing has been trending for at least 3 weeks now. I did a quick little look into it. I'm not big on gaming. I think 5% of a crypto portfolio in gaming is effective. I wouldn't put anything over 5%. And then, of course, if you want to be more conservative for gaming, I would go into Avalanche because you get the real world asset exposure. You get all really the subnets, but there's a ton of gaming subnets. If gaming does well, Avalanche will do very well. But if gaming doesn't pick up like it didn't last year or this year, then you'll still get some price. You'll get some price momentum, bullish price momentum from Avalanche. So that's my conservative gaming play. Undead Games. I wouldn't have over like 1% of my portfolio in a speculative play like that, but I mean, this thing is close to its all-time high, and it is a gaming project, so that's been trending for many weeks. They have a pretty dope-looking game. Reminds me of Left 4 Dead for those people that played that game, about a decade ago. All right, moving on, we got Stable. I referenced this a little bit earlier. Stable is a BNB play. Co-founder Tether over there. If you can't invest into Tether because it is a private company, then you should begin exposure to these plays. So Tether, I think there's only like 30 employees if I'm not mistaken. So a very small team. They're up there with like the Telegrams of the world in terms of how much capital they're bringing in with a very small team. And I like what they're doing. And a lot of these companies, they like what they're doing with Tether, and they're figuring out ways to profit off of it. So STBL, again, co-founder of Tether's behind that one. I actually just bought some STBL yesterday. So another play I'm down on, because sometimes you buy the top. And if you ever feel bad, just know Crux, he bought the local top. So is the bottom in yet? I don't think it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. So Hyperliquid, you see it's down 28% on the week. I think it's going to continue dwindling. Earlier I talked about a 13 bill market cap. Now it's at 11.5 after the pullback, and it's just going down. If we look at all of these trending cryptos, look at how many of them are derivative exchanges. You have Aster, you have Avantis, you have Hyperliquid, and then you also have, there was one down here. It's called it was here like a couple minutes ago. Anyways, there was another derivative exchange down here that got smoked. It launched in like 2022 and it's been down and right since like Q3 of last year. And we're starting to see derivative exchanges come back alive. So very interesting. And a lot of that liquidity is coming from Hyperliquid. So I would not rush into Hype if you haven't yet. I'd probably wait till maybe we could drop down to like $30 on Hyperliquid before getting exposure to that one. Linea, it's a layer 2 scaling solution built on Ethereum. I don't have exposure. I'm not big on L2s. I actually do portfolio audits with you guys. And I've noticed a lot of you guys are heeding caution on these L2s, the Optimisms, the Arbitrums. Even Base. Base just announced that in Q1, most likely next year. Actually, no. Base just announced that they possibly may launch a Base token. So there's no time frame on it, but if Base launches a Base token, expect all of those to be hit drastically. So I wouldn't be holding Optimism or Arbitrum or Matic, etc., or even Linea. I would be staying away from scaling solutions, especially on Ethereum. Now, Tuesday, I covered one called Hemi. That is a scaling solution built on Bitcoin to add programmability to the Bitcoin layer, which is probably why Bitcoin is trending right now. Also, Bitcoin is king, so we see it just dropped under $110,000, and that's going to make people start to question, is the local top or even the bull market peak in? So I have very little confidence that the bull market peak is in, but I would not be surprised to see us go closer and test that $100,000 Bitcoin. My take is I don't think we'll ever see $100,000 Bitcoin again, but again, I'm holding very loosely to that because if we are in a bear market, I would not be surprised to see it go closer back to that 70K and even lower. So Ethereum's also trending because we just finally dropped below 4K for the first time after setting a new all-time high like a month ago or so. Ethereum got very close to $5,000 and then rejected, very similar to how it did in November of 2021. So I'm still very bullish on Ethereum overall. The reason it took so long to trend is because all of those scaling solutions I just talked about sapped the liquidity away from Ethereum. So if you added the market caps of all of those scaling solutions, Ethereum would have done much better this bull market. And until Ethereum's able to figure out its scaling issues, the L2s are going to be competition, and that's not what we want. So, another crypto that has figured it out in terms of scaling is Solana, which will implement its Alpenglow upgrade probably as early as Q1 next year. They haven't added a date to it, but consensus changes, especially going from, what was it? It's something to rotor and motor. Rotor and motor is kind of like the new Alpenglow flow, which is going to increase the finality. Solana does not rely on scaling solutions, which is why it is starting to take a big market cap away from Ethereum. So Solana is not only the institutional layer, it is the execution layer. And, the founder, Yakovenko, just recently talked about Ethereum being the settlement layer. So he's allowing Ethereum to do its thing in DeFi, but the institutions are definitely choosing Solana because of how fast it is and how cheap it is to settle. So I think Solana, if you were to ask me, will Solana one day surpass Ethereum? That's a very good question. Of all the cryptos, Solana would be the best bet, in my opinion, to overcome Ethereum, even better than XRP. So you got to remember, use cases are huge in the space. XRP is a front mover for peer-to-peer transactions. We have so many cryptocurrencies out there that are competing with the XRP, like Keeta, for example, that are just focused on peer-to-peer transactions, making it very cheap, even Kaspa. So, so Solana, I think will do very well for the rest of this bull market. All right, pumped up fun. This thing's been trending for a while. I don't hold any. If you want to, have a little fun, that's okay. WLFI, this one's mainly trending because it just got listed on Robinhood. I would definitely consider you guys to continue to stay away from this before this thing launched. I told everyone to not get in, right? So September 1st, many of the insiders, they got access to their tokens. And then guess what? September 2nd, it launches publicly, and then you guys get smoked because you're buying. And that's just how it works. Anything that Trump touches in crypto is heavily manipulated. Insiders are all in there. And if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead and try. But I'll tell you, between the WLFI, the Trump token, USD1, USD1's the most that I would trust. But even then, that's a stablecoin product. So, I mean, there's not much trust. Well, I'm not going to say there's not much trust you have to have there, but USD1 is much different than these other plays. I would stay away from really anything that Trump is touching, even in traditional markets. He is a businessman. He's going to make his money. So don't be surprised if you are. Exit liquidity. Now, we got Avalanche and then Zero Gravity. These are the two last plays. Let me make sure you can see them. Avalanche and Zero Gravity. So Avalanche is going to be trending because you have $1 billion raise where they're selling some of their not founder tokens, but they're selling some of their treasury tokens at a discount to the institutions. That's why Avalanche has been absolutely crushing it as of the past couple of weeks in comparison to every other crypto. I'm very bullish on Avalanche overall. Check out my Avalanche versus Sui video, and you will be surprised. There's a ton you can learn in that video. I thought Sui was going to easily take the dub, and I'm not going to spoil it, but Avalanche came to play. And then Zero Gravity, this one does two things. GPU compute, think of something similar to like an Akash or an IO.net, and then data storage, so something like a Filecoin or an Arweave. So that wraps up the trending cryptos. Let's go ahead and quickly jump into a brief section of Q&A, and then I'm going to jump into the news. All right, so arrow under $1. Wow, says Carl. Yeah, so this is starting to become the dip that we all been wanting. CeeLo says, greetings from Brooklyn, New York City. Welcome, CeeLo. Shout out to my veterans out there. Also, we now have a 10% off for our veterans. So if you're a veteran, message me in Discord and I'll make sure you can get 10% off any of our memberships. I did 9 years myself in the military, in the Army in particular, 6 enlisted, 3 as an officer in the infantry. And I make sure I look out for my veterans. So you guys, love you all. All right, Max says, heavily allocated in base memes. Do you think we will see liquidity come to all of those? Max, be very careful. I don't think anybody's portfolio should have over 10% allocation into meme coins. Very difficult to be able to gauge which ones are going to be the ones that play out. And base memes, of all of them, I think Toshi and Brett are by far the clear winners. Those are the two that I hold. Now, there's a couple other ones. Yeah, those are the only two I want to say. I don't want people to ape into the wrong ones, but Brett by far is going to be my winner in that category. And again, I would have much less than, I'd have less than 10% of my portfolio in all of the meme coins. So that includes Dogecoin, Sheeb, etc., all combined. Don't get too crazy with it. And also Dogecoin, don't sleep on that one. There's tons of price action to the upside as long as Bitcoin recovers. So now Bitcoin doesn't recover all of this. It trends down, and much of these cryptos are not ever going to recover. So things to consider is just because you bought a crypto and you ride it through a bear market does not mean you're going to get your money back. So continue to educate yourself. Every single day there's cryptos that are launching, and I'm here to cover them all, give you guys basic understanding of this stuff. Because I'm not a maxi, I'm the exact opposite of a maxi. I think the maxis can lead you in a wrong direction. And if you continue to only push one project, it's just very risky to do so. I bought 6 different cryptos yesterday, and that put me above 70 different cryptos I'm holding. So that's what I believe in the space is invest in visionaries. And sometimes you'll be rewarded. Not all the plays are going to do well. So not financial advice, that's just what I do. Cat in the Hat, I hold a decent sized bag of AVAX, just had a nice run. Yes, for sure. I know Tim was on Paul Barron Network's channel yesterday, and he talked about AVAX in particular. He didn't name drop me, but he did name drop my work. So he said that I did a breakdown, and Tim learned a lot from my video. So if Tim's able to learn from my video, then you are too. So make sure you subscribe, join Discord, follow on X, smash that like and subscribe because we're here to change the world. All right. Don't get scared, guys. It's just the composite man doing what he does. Ignore him, says Carl. Right. So the composite man is a made up person. Think of it as like a concept, if anything. There's a book written on it. I forgot who wrote the book. But it's all about who you're versing. And these people are stronger than you. They're smarter than you. And at the end of the day, the odds are against you, right? So in Vegas, there's very few games that are like 50-50. Like a coin flip, is probably the best you're going to get in terms of gambling. But in terms of trading, there's ways that you can break above that 50% probability. And that's through chart patterns. That's through understanding how to do fundamental and technical analysis. And our community is all over it. So that's what we're trying to do, give you above a 51% probability on winning in these markets. So yeah, definitely follow our community. Thank you for your services, Cat in the Hat. Much respect, much love. Lori says, what do you think about Story? All right, so Story, it's been a minute since I covered this one. Let's check it out real quick. STORY. I'm pretty sure it's a layer 1. I mean, 2.6 billion. We're finally retracing. We're retracing very hard too. Just off of this, I'll probably wait for at least $5 or so before I'm getting exposure. Maybe $6. There's a ton of support right here. So $6, there's still a ton of room to go to the downside, especially with the downward price action that we had as of late. Now it is in the top 58 cryptos out there. And I'm pretty sure this is so AI native infrastructure for IP. There's so many of these plays that are popping up. I just talked about one of them that was trending, the zero gravity play. But a lot of these layer 1s are looking to just bring AI to the decentralization of what crypto brings. It's hard to tell which ones are going to win, which ones are going to play out. The best way you can get ahead of this type of stuff is see who backs what. So I always look for key leaders in the space to talk about something. And that's why I'm very bullish on Astros, because CZ just came out publicly and talked about how he is bullish on the play. Now, in terms of what Story is, there's definitely going to be some potential here. But again, layer 1s are going to have to compete with everything else that is a layer 1. And why should I buy Story instead of buying, I don't know, Render or some other plays? This is all just competition at the end of the day. So whatever you're going to invest in, expect it to go to zero. I think AI, maybe 10% of a portfolio should be there. That's what I've been telling people in the portfolio reviews that I do. I would have put over 10% of my portfolio into AI. Last year, I would have put 15%. And that's because NVIDIA became the biggest company in the world and AI followed suit within crypto and Web3. And that's why Render popped off and all those other type of plays popped off. But right now, we have something that's actually the exact opposite. And I'll go ahead and jump quickly into that news. I was actually going to hold it towards the end. But I think this right here is kind of a good segment into this. We have a lot of stuff that's happening with AI right now with Elon Musk. He's suing OpenAI. This just got dropped today, accusing the company of systematically stealing trade secrets. And another thing to consider, this is not the first time he's going after OpenAI. I mean, most of us know he is the co-founder of OpenAI. But if you've been living under a rock, these two guys here are controlling most of what's happening in AI right now. So Sam Altman, he's the bee's knees. He has partnership with most of the FANG stocks at this point, and he's getting his software or his large language models integrated into what we know as AI. And here's the second one. So Elon Musk, he is petty. He's seen his company start thriving. He missed out on it. And he actually, I think back in 2021, tried to sign he pushed for a bill to be put in place to slow down the advancement of AI so he can catch up. So XAI is behind. Elon Musk is trying to sue his way back into the spotlight, and it's not looking good overall. So there's a big stigma, as people gravitating towards the deep seeks of the world, the free AIs, the Geminis, OpenAIs, XAI, all these different large language models. We don't have a clear winner yet. So in crypto, there's not going to be any clear winners. That's something to consider. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this Moon Madness. So I'm super hyped about this. Again, if you're living under a rock, this is the top 32 cryptocurrencies that we're trying to figure out who has the best community. I mean, technically, it's the question that Tim has up here. Which altcoin is a better 10-year hold? And this poll has taken over Twitter by storm. We have 205,000 eyes on this thing. Crazy, 601 retweets, over 550 comments. And this just wrapped up yesterday. So we got Kaspa advancing to the final versus Sui. SUI is a ticker. And if you want to jump into that poll, which will launch tomorrow, make sure you go down there. You'll see Tim Warren's Twitter down there in the description. And make sure you get your voice heard. Now, I'm going to stay as unbiased as possible. And I hope you guys definitely vote throughout the weekend on that poll. And we'll make sure we cover those projects. I've been holding it in. I want to be very outspoken about how happy I am for some of these projects. But I can't because there's still polling going in on progress. And so this is pretty fun. We're going to have more Moon Madness type events, like what's going to be the best AI project, or one that we're thinking about is 3 crypto portfolios. So we have all these different 3 portfolio teams. One might be like Avalanche, Sui, and Render versus like HBAR, Cardano, Ethereum. And then you guys are going to figure out which the best portfolio is. So very fun. You guys love it. Make sure you follow us on Twitter to take part in that. And so again, almost 15,000 votes between these two communities. And this was massively successful because very rarely you'll ever see this much traction going on in crypto on X. So you guys have been crushing it. And that's why our communities are growing, because you guys love stuff like this. And why do we do stuff like this? Check it. So this guy, he's an ADA whale, not an ADA maxi. He says, this is ridiculous. Whoever heard of Kaspa? Cardano fam, let's crush this bot nonsense. Repost and vote, right? And then later on, he said this. Fair enough, Cas shills. So I'm now proud owner of a lot of it. I have been camping on a Hedera position for the longest time and down just a little, but I like what I see. ADA is still king, but Kaspa is pretty cool. So these are the type of polls, that really make me feel good. Is we're bringing crypto to the masses. A lot of us that are forward thinkers, we try to figure out what's good asymmetrically with a fairly low market cap and try to get in early on the stuff because, there's a lot of advancements that are happening in the space. And if we could get our word out there, it will keep the projects from dying, right? So if we keep running events like this, people will change their minds, and it's success. So that's what we like to have here in the space. All right, let's move on to the next article. You saw the weird play. Most of you probably never heard of Plasma yet. You saw it on the thumbnail, some weird coin in the background, and I did that on purpose to make it a little eerie. Now, the mainnet beta is here, and this is the founder here. So this is the accumulation of our team putting everything that they had into making Plasma the perfect home for Money 2.0. So the launch of the mainnet is now here. And we have stablecoin native L1, which is Plasma. There's $2 billion worth of USDT liquidity on chain from just today. It's backed by Tether. So like I said earlier, if you can't buy Tether because it's privately owned, this is a play right here. I think XPL is the ticker. And I would not, I mean, personally, I would never buy anything on day one. It is starting to pull back. Let's check it out real quick. Let's go back to the trending cryptos here. Plasma's right here. Let's make sure XPL is the ticker, correct. It's doing well. You know, 2.3 billion market cap. Nothing to scoff at. I'm not getting it. Expect this thing to retrace pretty hard. But again, Tether, you have over $170 billion in stable coins. 2 billion of it coming from this play. And you see the market cap worth 2.3 billion. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. I wouldn't consider this very risky, but there's definitely going to be a little bit of risk there. So consider that like maybe medium risk. Now I'm going to stay away from it because I like to be a little bit more risky on my plays. I don't like to just invest directly into stablecoin providers, but I mean, that's the move with the Genius Act, with the Clarity Act. Like, crypto regulation is happening. And honestly, it's the biggest part of this entire cycle. So regulation, stable coins, you have to have on-ramping access before institutions can really get involved, which is why there's really no treasuries last cycle that were formed around crypto projects. But now with Gary Gensler out of the way, the SEC is crypto friendly now. We got a crypto task force. We have an administration that loves crypto. There's so much bullishness here, you know, so don't get wrapped up in the red days like today. Continue to accumulate. A lot of people, well, I'll hold my thoughts on the 4-year cycle till a bit later in the stream. So make sure you stick around because that's going to be an awesome segment of this stream. And I got a couple things prepared for you. But again, it's a red day, but there's glimmers of hope. All right, let's move on to the next segment of the news, and then we'll jump into some more Q&A. This right here is going to go and show how dominant right now USDT is over the entire space. So I just talked about Plasma. I talked about a lot of these other trending cryptos that are getting access to Tether's liquidity, or Tether's plan for yield, right? And this is insane. So Tether essentially is making up most of the stablecoin market cap. You see this green box up here. And yeah, so something to consider, that third one, Athena, USDE. I'm super bullish on Athena because that is a top 3 stablecoin there. And it's not backed by massive well, I mean, I would consider it an institutional token, but it's not backed by like your normal treasuries and stuff. It's backed by Ethereum and Bitcoin. And if we can get a lot of different algorithmic stablecoins as such, that's able to use the delta neutral hedging strategy that Athena operates, I think we're going to be in business because we want them to be buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. And, you know, if it's pegged against the dollar, so what, right? We all understand that, let's see, a light bulb might cost, let's just say a couple dollars, right? We know what it means in dollars, but how much is a light bulb in Bitcoin? I don't know. How much is it in Ethereum? Probably like 0.0003. I don't know. But the universal language of money at this point is US dollars. So if we can get algorithmic stablecoins backed by cryptocurrencies, that is much better than backing it by dollars and even treasuries. So shout out Athena. That's a solid play there. USDC, they're kind of keeping up. You know, I'm not going to FUD USDC. They are taking a beating, though. USDT is the front runner. Think of it like this. In terms of like who runs stuff, Bitcoin is USDT, Ethereum is USDC. So very, very, well, not very, very far, maybe like 6 years of price action behind it. Now we'll see. So I like both of them. And let's do one last story. So Centrifuge. If you're sleeping under a rock, you probably never heard of them. And I'll bring up RWA.xyz here in a second. That's how I evaluate all the RWA plays. But we just got the first ever tokenized S&P 500 index licensed by the biggest play right now in institutional funds. As you can see, Centrifuge has $780 million in market cap. They are bridging over into the real world asset space. They're tokenizing stocks. They have a lot of different tokenized stocks, but S&P 500 is the most useful tokenized stock because that's where most of us that don't want to be extremely risky, that's where we go. If you can get 8 to 10% APY across 30, 40, 50-year periods, that is very successful in my opinion, especially when inflation, yes, it's trickled up, but it's not doing 8% a year. So we're not losing an insane amount of value. I mean, technically the US dollar is down drastically in the past 5 years since COVID, but the S&P 500 is also up quite a bit. So this to me is a very big article. Centrifuge, the biggest player in the space in terms of institutional funds, but also if you look at the US Treasury side over here, they are number 7. So they're not just playing with institutional fund, they got treasuries. This is a big company. They're up there with Securitize. I think Securitize is like number 1. You'll see the Ondo Finances. Centrifuge is nothing to scoff at. All right. Yeah. So let's do a little Q&A and we'll jump into the next news article. I see a lot of questions here. Pepe is a good meme coin. Leverage ETH, basically. Conrad, I agree. I think if Ethereum does very well, most ERC20 tokens are going to be a leverage position for Ethereum. So I hold Pepe. It makes up my, I think I might hold like maybe 10% of my portfolio in meme coins. And Pepe probably makes up a good like 1% of that. So I actually think it's probably a top 3 risk to reward meme coin currently. It doesn't have the insanely high market cap of a SHIB or a Doge, but it has it has pretty good traction this cycle. Squad says, how do you feel about Injective? Let's check out the Injective chart real quick. It's been a minute since I've really looked at this one. So Injective is an interoperability play. It's built across a lot of different chains. Now, most interoperability plays aren't doing incredibly well. We got lower highs, and at least as of late, we've got higher lows. So expect this thing to either break up or break down fairly soon. I would say within like the next week or so. If not, we're probably already breaking down because, I mean, as of recent, as of today, we do have a lower low. So we could be breaking down now. We're sitting at about $1.12 billion market cap project. It did extremely well this bull market, and it's in its second cycle. So most projects have not received their all-time high this bull market, and they're still fighting to get back to their all-time high. Injective has done well. Now, there's something I'd always consider is how well has it done since its April bounce. This thing went as low as, let's say, 750, and then almost got up to about 15 bucks. I mean, about, yeah. So we got about a 2x within a very short time here, and this is showing me that there's hope. I currently hold some Injective as part of one of my 70 different plays. I'd rather put a little bit into a lot, and that's just how I play crypto. If I like what they're doing there, I hold some. I wouldn't sell it all. Interoperability, I wouldn't even consider interoperability like a top 5 anymore. So if you're looking at like Injective or Cosmos or those type of plays, I probably wouldn't even have like maybe 8% or 5% of my portfolio combined in interoperability plays. It just hasn't been the move as of at least since December of last year. All right, let's read some more Q&As. Hey Crux, which 2 AI crypto do you see play a big role in the future? Says Yanni. If I could only hold 2, it'd be... So Render's getting close to getting dethroned by Aether. So I like Render a lot. I think Aether is a better asymmetric buy because it has a lower market cap. And then I would definitely have Tau as number one. So Tau is really not even close to being number two. It's the best AI play in crypto. And whenever I consider something AI, I'm not going to consider like a near protocol or like a graph play really AI at this point. Last bull market it was, because we didn't know what AI was at the time. But even something like Fetch, I would consider Fetch AI, but most layer ones, they branded themselves as AI, but they haven't come out with anything that was just groundbreaking. Now Tau did. Tau with their subnets, with bot.tau, what they're doing over there is next level. And also, if you listen to Chamath Papatia, if you listen to Gary Silbert, who is the founder of Digital Currency Group, these guys are bullish on Tau. And again, I follow what smart people are doing, what people with a lot of money are doing, and you would never fade Grayscale. They are the original, they're the OGs of ETFs. So before we had ETFs, we had Grayscale, who was quote unquote manipulating the markets. They own CoinDesk, they own Foundry, which is the biggest pool of hash rate for Bitcoin, and they run the space. So of course I'm gonna do what they're doing. Tau is number one in AI. Render and Aether are two plays I would like to put at number two, and I'm kind of just giving it time before I make that call. So thank you. Chainlink buy festival incoming. I like Chainlink. I think Chainlink is a top 3 crypto in the space in terms of use case. You got Bitcoin, peer-to-peer, store of wealth, store of value. You have smart contracts built by Ethereum, and then now you have oracles, which is what Chainlink has created. So it brings real-world data on chain. That's huge. That's what aggregates the prices for stuff. You can't have real-world assets. You can't have DeFi. You can't have anything without Chainlink. So it's the most interoperable play in crypto. And if Chainlink goes down, crypto itself goes back 3, 4, 5 years. So the next up, you got Pyth, which is built on Solana, and they are far behind what Chainlink is able to do. So I think Chainlink is definitely a buy. Honestly, I would accumulate Chainlink anywhere under, $25. I think that's a good buying opportunity for Chainlink. So, and it went as low as $5 in the last bear market. So it's done fairly well, getting up to about $30. That's about a 6x from the bear market low to the cycle high. And so I continue to accumulate Chainlink. That is going to be a less risky play. I would treat that one more as just a large cap, as if you're buying something like Solana or XRP, because Chainlink's not going anywhere. All right, thoughts on Sibos next week. I'm not sure what Sibos, SIBOS is. HBAR will be speaking with representatives from Swift and Citibank. Oh, so it's probably a conference. So HBAR will be speaking with representatives from Swift and Citibank. So if you go back and watch my HBAR video from like 4 months ago, I talk about how integrated HBAR is into the FedNow pilot program. They have been chosen and picked up to facilitate that process. So Swift is not going to be competing with blockchain technology. They are actually integrating it, which is bad for XRP. The XRP is really the only main layer 1 blockchain that's competing with Swift. A lot of these other ones like HBAR are looking to team up with Swift. So I'll be definitely keeping my ear out. I would like to hear what HBAR and Lehman Baird, which is the founder of HBAR, what they got to talk about over there. So that's how I stay up on all this stuff. And then Citibank, that's one of the biggest banks in the world. So it's nice to see them. Dread says, show some love and give the stream a like. I agree, Dread. I think we could have more likes. We have 165 views. So the views are up, the likes are not. So what are you guys doing? I'm dropping a Keeta video tomorrow. I got a ton of content coming out, 2 live streams. We got some shorts and a top 3 video on what to be buying on this dip. So all of that is going to be, coming in the next couple days. And that's what I do. I create crypto content. I educate the masses, and I inform you guys on where I think we're headed. Buying opportunity for Keeta, or should I get scared, says Brandon. I think anything under 70 cents for Keeta is a steal. So Keeta, just yesterday, we talked about in the Discord server. Bring up the chart. Anything under 70 cents, and we are sitting at 61 cents. So if you don't have exposure to this, check out my video that I already released maybe a month ago, and wait till tomorrow where I drop I drop more updated news. I actually shot it this morning. I got my editor working on it. This sell-off right here is not just from today's price action, but it's also the mainnet that launched earlier this week. So remember, buy the rumor, sell the news. That's what that's what happens in crypto. People buy the rumor and they sell the news. And don't become exit liquidity. Understand what's happening fundamentally on projects before you go and blindly invest into them. And yeah, so yesterday I bought some Keeta for 70 cents. The reason I'm down on my Keeta is because the markets are down. So I bought it well after the mainnet buy the rumor, sell the news. I thought I was going to get real fancy with it and buy the dip. And I'm down a little bit on my bags. That's okay because I'm going to be hodling. And I believe in this project. You have a top 50 richest people in the world behind this project. So Eric Schmidt, he is a co-founder of... Actually, no, he's not a co-founder of Google, but he's an ex-CEO of Google. And he's been pretty vocal as of late with this. And they just talked about their first partnership. Again, stay tuned tomorrow at this time. The video drops if you don't know about Keeta. But again, 70 cents, this is when you should be accumulating if you don't have exposure. All right, let's move on to a couple more questions and then we'll jump back into the news. I'm glad I didn't buy Keeta at $1. Thinking about buying this dip though. Money flow on Market Cipher doesn't look good at all. Might come below 50 cents before it recovers. Hey, if you can get this thing under 50 cents, that's going to be just a killer price to be able to grab it. So get those buy orders in. This is nothing to scoff at. You have a sub 300 mil market cap project. Just dropped its mainnet. Its testnet is probably the best that's ever happened in crypto. And you have some very big partners behind this play. Even Van Eck Sun. So many of you have heard of Van Eck. They are an asset, an AUM, an assets under management company of over $100 billion. And the son of Van Eck just partnered with Keeta. So they have a company called Agora. There's a lot going on over there. Sub 300 mil market cap is insanely low for Keeta. All right, Chezo says, how's it going? What is going on, brother? I know there's a lot of y'all that are probably here for the Kaspa news. I'm holding off on the end on purpose. There's been a pretty big announcement. So you see it on the thumbnail. And I'll get here within the next 10 minutes or so. I'll jump over into that Kaspa news. Let's get it, crypto keepers. Jump in the gem hunters. Let's get with Crux and catch the plays early. Appreciate you, Kenny G. Kenny G is the newest gem hunter. So let me make sure I get you mod here. Kenny, there we go. Add as moderator, managing moderator, save. All right, so Kenny, you have the ability to shut people up if they're saying the wrong things in chat, spam, all that stuff. We don't like it here. So I take my hat off to all you moderators who've been keeping the space clean. I haven't had many bots come in here and try to ruin my stream, which is awesome. But you'll see in the comments of the video sometimes they'll be a little bit disruptive, and that's not what we encourage here. This is a space to learn about crypto. So welcome. Yeah, and the gem hunters, we've been doing well. It's actually 25% of our plays have 2x'd in under 48 hours after the call. So for example, if I drop 4 plays, one of them is going to 2x within 48 hours. That's an insane track record. And we're as transparent as possible. We always tag the buy call. You can always go back and check. And we're doing very well over there. So think about joining it. The instructions are down there below. Angel says, hey, Crux. What up, Angel? Angel's another active person. I'm going to definitely bring you up as a moderator. Welcome, Angel. Angie says, Keeta. We got a lot of Keeta people in here. Sweet. You guys are going to be happy for tomorrow's video. Again, I am a content creator, and I look at it a little bit different than most people do. I really do my due diligence before I create these videos. This video is going to be a little shorter. So again, if you haven't seen my first one, my first Keeta video is like 11 minutes long. Make sure to watch that one, and then tomorrow come back. The new one's going to be like 8 minutes, but it's filled with just tons of content, and it's just an update from that initial video. Zebic Network will be at Cybos. I actually like what Zebic is doing. I like these traditional finance companies bridging into Web3 and allowing people to buy stuff through, credit cards. I think, honestly, we're always going to be somewhat involved with credit cards. So Like if I go buy gas, if I go buy groceries or whatever, I'm going to use a credit or debit card. That's what the world and society know. So I don't think we're going to change that in the eyes of what crypto is capable of doing as a front end user. But in the back end, there's so much that's happening in crypto. And that's why I'm here, because that little 3%, the little 3% fee that MasterCard and Visa has been capitalizing on after all of these years is no longer. So we have these networks that are, competing. And with competition, you bring efficiencies within monetary systems. And now we got the Keetas of the world that are allowing you to do hundreds of transactions for less than a penny and go straight from a Visa card, skip in the bank onto a layer one blockchain. So I'm excited. This is an awesome time to be in crypto, to be alive. You think about like every decade, you have cell phones in the 2000s. You have blockchain technology in 2010 as Bitcoin came in 2009. You have AI in 2020. Every decade we have something to really pay attention to. But of all of these technologies, I think blockchain and AI are going to be by far the biggest. So this is super disruptive right now. They're both kind of converging at the same time, and there's a ton of ways to profit from it. So continue to follow this channel, and we're going to be able to find those ways. Keeta for the win, says Kenny. I did the same with Keeta, says TP. Yeah, I see a pretty cool duo here. So we got a lot of Kaspa people in Keeta. Maybe it's because I'm very bullish on both, and you guys are starting to see that somebody who actually does his research, as opposed to just talks about, price go up or something like that. If you watch any of my videos, they're all, coming from reading a white paper, doing in thorough depth on a team, etc. So I'm not going to be able to call everything correct, but I know how to do due diligence, and a lot of people in Kaspa and Keeta are starting to kind of find their ways into each other's communities, which is dope. All right, so I see a lot more comments, but I can't continue to go over all of them. I need to jump into some more news. And then all you Kaspa fans that are sticking around, I got to make sure I update you guys on that. So this is going to be a quick little switch in terms of the direction we're headed, but regulation. This is the regulatory cycle, in my opinion. This is this guy here. He is the Secretary of Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. He is Ohio Secretary of State. So got that wrong. Ohio Secretary of State. He's a fellow infantryman, so he's a former Green Beret. Awesome. Shout out to the Special Forces out there. Today, the State Board of Deposit unanimously approved a vendor to facilitate the acceptance of cryptocurrency payments for state fees and services. So, in Ohio, we will, well, I'm not an Ohio resident, but if you're living in Ohio, you'll be able to pay for tax payments and service fees in Bitcoin. I wouldn't be spending my Bitcoin on these types of things. Personally, hodl. Get your Bitcoin and just hodl it. But this is the first step towards legal tender. So one day I think that we're going to be able to freely use Bitcoin within merchants all across the United States, and they're not going to have the capital gains taxes. It's going to be insane. So I can buy Bitcoin, I can get the value appreciated on it, and then I can buy stuff without paying a state tax because of legal tender, and without paying capital gains, because hopefully Donald Trump's able to figure out how to get this stuff passed without capital gains. So I'm super bullish on crypto. And this is another reason that you should just hodl crypto. Bitcoin in particular is if you buy it at like 15.5, or 90% of my portfolio was bought sub 25K Bitcoin, and I never sell it, right? And let's just say Bitcoin, I bought it at 25K, rode it all the way up to $500,000. That's like a 20. It's like a, I'm not sure. So I'm not teaching math, I'm teaching crypto. Anyways, I got multiple X's on my Bitcoin. I won't have to pay capital gains, and that's amazing. So I think within the next cycle, we should have all of that in play. And again, welcome Ohio. You're joining Arizona, you're joining Texas, you're joining Utah, Wyoming. Wyoming just launched the first state issued back stablecoin called Frontier Coin. So these states, if you live in the United States, I personally believe we're the best country in the world. I'm a little biased because I am a veteran, but We're also very innovative and we're front running crypto. All right. You know who's not front running? Well, yeah, who's not front running crypto is Circle. So Charles Hoskinson about a year ago talked about USDC possibly becoming a CBDC, and these are the type of moves that are very bearish in the space. Circle is considering reversing USDC stablecoin transactions, right? So whenever I think of CBDCs, I'm thinking of controlled money that can be frozen, and who knows what the permissions for freezing the funds are. Is it going to be you need a warrant? Like, what is it? There has to be something. But the number 2 provider of stablecoins, Circle, which has in the past frozen funds already. So, I'm not too sure exactly how far more in depth they want to get than this. Just remember, if this regulation continues under Donald Trump to where stablecoins are ahead of the masses, right? They are fully adopted by government, state governments, the federal government, and then out of nowhere, a new administration comes in. Remember, Circle was adopted, we're pro crypto, and then they used it as a tool to turn it into a CBDC. And I'm not saying it is. I don't want to spread FUD, but I'm much more on Team USDT at this point. But even something to consider over there is Bo Hines just went over there. He left the government position and he teamed up with USDT. So between these two agencies or these two stable coins, I don't know which one's going to be. I mean, they're both fairly centralized, but I don't know. I definitely prefer Athena. I talked a little bit about that earlier. I'm not a big fan of the direction these things are headed, but that's why they have such a high market cap. It's because the institutions, the regulators, they're all backing the stuff because they want control. And I think that is a fair assessment. Circle, what are you doing? What are you doing? All right, next up, this is a pretty cool clip. I'm going to just play it real quick. Just to lay out a little background. This is Raoul Pal. He is the big reason a lot of people think the M2 money supply front runs Bitcoin by about 3 months. And he has found another pattern. So he is saying that the peak of this bull market is going to be in Q2 next year. So 2026 Q2. And here's his reasoning. This will be about 30 seconds long.
Is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet? And it's this chart. Bitcoin is basically, this is a detrended Bitcoin. And it's basically the ISM, which is the business cycle. Remember, we've always said it's the business cycle stupid. It is always the business cycle stupid. And all of these people who claim it's the 4-year cycle based around this and that, they don't understand the fundamental of what the business cycle is, why there's a 4-year cycle in everything. And we've explained it. And we'll go through it in great detail tomorrow in our Everything Code presentation. But basically, it's following the ISM.
All right. So you heard it here first. This is saying it's following a business cycle. I personally believe in the 4-year cycle. He says people like me don't understand the crypto cycles. The 4-year cycle, for those that don't know, every 210,000 Bitcoin that gets mined, it takes twice as long. No, you get half of the reward for using the same amount of effort to mine Bitcoin. So that's why miners tend to sell off during certain times. And again, that takes about 4 years for that process to happen. Now, Raoul Pal is saying that, the 4-year cycle is no longer going to be ran by the miners. It is going to be ran as a business cycle. And that's going to be part of what PMI is. So he overlaid it, again, very correlated if you look at it. And for those that don't understand PMI, I quickly ChatGPT'd it, and I'll go over this really quickly. So the ISM is the Institute of Supply Management, and each month they publish surveys on how businesses are doing. The PMI, so it's the Purchasing Managers Index, tracks things like new orders, productions, and jobs. It is a quick health check on the economy. When the PMI is above 50, it signals growth. When below 50, it means there's a contraction, making a key guide to where we are within the business cycle. So as you can see in that last part, PMI above 50, it signals growth. PMI below 50 is contraction. So the next question I have, what is the current PMI? The latest is as of August, which is definitely outdated, would be about 48.7, which is below, indicating a contraction, right? So that's essentially why I personally believe we're going to continue to cut. But what does this mean for the markets? That's what the world wants to know. You know, bonds, stocks, over, you know, a lot of this stuff is affected, and overall it's a warning light for a slowdown. But sometimes markets rally if they expect more stimulus. So if you've been following our channel, most people, well, I mean, if you follow a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of us are talking about the rate cuts are more coming. A lot of us think there are going to be more coming this year. Is it going to be 25, 50, maybe even 100 point lower by the end of the year? That's what Trump wants. And that's who, yeah, mainly that's what Trump wants. And Trump usually gets what he wants, especially as the president. So, you know, if we go down another 50 points, I would not be surprised. But again, that's just going to make the price of money lower to borrow. And with lower prices to borrow money over time, the prices go up for risk on assets. So that's just a quick little walkthrough on where we're at. What are your takes? Do you think the 4-year cycle is still intact? I'm like 50-50. So 4-year cycle still intact. 4-year cycle may not be intact. And I'll use this to kind of, let's go back to this screen to break it down. So for me, extended cycles make sense, not because adoption, but because of momentum. Slow and steady growth of a controlled market breaks a cycle. Parabolic runs and blow off tops is what keeps the cycles intact. So we know 2017, 2013, 2021, these were all bullish periods leading to blow off tops. I mean, technically there wasn't a blow off top in November of 2021, but usually at the end of a bull market, you get that blow off top. There's a ton of parabolic price action going up, and then it falls. So what we're doing right now is starting to dump a little bit, right? So if we get this little stair step up and right, up and right, up and right, all the way to Q4 this year, we don't have the parabolic blow off top, which in my opinion means we're not going to dump 70% into a bear market. So it's all about momentum. I think that is the key word, momentum. If we go up parabolic into Q4 this year, expect a 50, 60, 70% pullback. If we stair step up and right, expect us to possibly go into Q2, like Raoul Powell is saying. I would not be surprised. So again, what are y'all's takes? Do you think it's a 4-year cycle, a 5-year cycle, or a forever market similar to gold? All right, let's move on to the next one. I already talked about these two. All right, so this is going to be a rapid section of why you should be hodling. You know, hodl gang, where you at? Just in, Google buys 5.4 stake in Bitcoin miner Cypher mining. Cool. You know, Google, they're here to play. GLCU, which is their layer 1 blockchain. I would love to see them run as a subnet on the Keeta network. I know Keeta has talked, or Ty, the founder of Keeta, has talked about that. They just dropped AI P2 or AP2, I think, which is like an AI protocol that's bridging over to SUI and Base. Like, Google is all over the crypto space right now. And what smart money does is not buy the top. So you have to ask yourself, this did not happen in 2021. There was not massive institutions buying the top. You know, nobody was around in Q3, Q4 of last year, of 2021, that would possibly stop the 4-year cycle from happening. So I like to see it. And then this isn't alone. We have Tim Cook. You know, maybe you heard of him. He is the founder, he is a CEO of Apple. Here's a quick segment of what he says about Bitcoin.
Do you own crypto, any Bitcoin or Ethereum? Would you play around with this?
I do, yeah. I think it's reasonable to own it as a part of a diversified portfolio. And I'm not giving anybody investment advice, by the way.
All right, so Tim Cook, one of the world's smartest and richest people, you know, over there at Apple, you know, he has Bitcoin. This is not his first time publicly coming out talking about Bitcoin. Actually, in 2021 was his first time, and he's been pretty adamant about it. And he's not alone. His co-founder of Apple, a co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, you know, this was said a little while back at the Bitcoin conference, but it's the most amazing mathematical miracle. It's better than gold. I talked about Elon Musk. I talked about Sam Altman. I talked about Steve. I talked about, you know, Tim Cook. These are the smartest, wealthiest people in the world, and they're talking about Bitcoin. They're talking about crypto. this is not going anywhere. So there's no reason to continue to panic sell when the market's dipped 10%. Again, we were at $4.3 trillion market cap. We came down to 3.8 trillion where we're currently at. This is a very small blip. We can continue to dump, and guess what? I'm just going to accumulate, because the smartest people, the richest people in the world are all talking about crypto. So let's do a little segment of Q&A, and I'm going to jump into the Kaspa news, and we're going to wrap this one out. Let's see. Do not fade Trump being in office. The guy is a businessman. The markets will be part of his legacy, in my opinion. I agree, Michael. I mean, he thinks much differently than most politicians, and I think it's healthy for the space, especially for onboarding crypto. But like I said earlier, if Trump is super pro crypto, we get USDC involved, we get the USDTs, government involvement within stablecoins, and then a new administration comes into office, the regulatory framework is there, the liquidity is there, and at that point, the regulation can be changed to control the masses. And I'm not trying to spread CBDC FUD, but if there's any way to get a CBDC installed quietly, this would be it. So I'm constantly monitoring the Tethers, the USDTs of the world. I don't trust either one, and I definitely encourage you guys to do your research on Athena and go that way. I think the 4-year cycle is still intact, says Carl. Yeah, I'm 50-50 on it. It's all about momentum going into Q4 this year. And again, Tuesday, Thursday, I bring the alpha. You guys will always know what I'm thinking, because I think it's important to be transparent. This morning's video from Raul goes into much more depth about the extended cycle. Yeah, so Raul Powell, again, if you missed it, he talked about Q2 next year being the possible peak. I would love to see it. Again, the 4-year cycle is something that you can use to sell the top and then buy back in at a bear market low. But if the 4-year cycle is done, you just buy crypto and ride it up and right. Now, if you buy it and go up and right, you're not going to make 2, 3, 5, 8, 10x your holdings every 4 years. You're just going to make, kind of similar to gold, but probably multiple, percentages higher than what gold is moving at. So I like the 4-year cycles because I like to buy low, sell high. Overall, as an investment, though, the 4-year cycle needs to eventually be broken for governments to adopt, for states to adopt. We can't have this thing that retraces every 4 years 70%. So I still believe in the 4-year cycle to an extent, but I will not be surprised if this thing breaks into 2026. With all the new policies and such, we've experienced so much change. So yeah, 60-40 for me. Bull run is bound to have change too. Still feeling kind of bullish. Right, Angel. The more bearish price action we have as of late, so if we continue going to a bearish trend, especially if Bitcoin goes sub 100K, it's only going to increase my probability that the 4-year cycle will be broken and will go higher into Q2, maybe even Q3 of 2026. Now remember, if we didn't have the blow off top and we got to $122,000 Bitcoin and that was the peak, and we slowly came down to 110 where we're currently at now, and then we continue to go down, we're not going to do another 70% plus pullback because we didn't have the euphoria of what crypto entails. We didn't have the blow off top, and usually that's the more bullish you go up, the more bearish you're going to go down. Because support and resistance, it needs time. If you consolidate, it's going to add into support and resistance. So okay, so once Apple enters Bitcoin, the price will go up. That's why I haven't considered this one the institutional cycle yet, is because MicroStrategy is still the second biggest company, and they're, I think, the number 160 biggest company in the world right now. The only bigger company that holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet is Tesla. So until those FANG stocks really get direct exposure, we just saw Google, they bought some shares of a mining company. Until those companies get a direct exposure into Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think we're not yet in the institutional cycle. So I consider this one the regulatory cycle. And with regulation, we're going to have stable coins. So you have regulation, you have liquidity. And once you have those two things, at that point, people just have to press the green button. In those FANG stocks, they're going to send this thing into a $2, $3, $5, $10 million Bitcoin in the matter of a couple decades. So I'm pumped. I think we're in the right space. We're forward thinkers. There's going to be a lot more people in, 4 years that are watching this stream, but you guys will be rewarded for being early, and also hodling. Don't underestimate hodling, because that's how people get wealthy in crypto. You get rich in bear markets, you get wealthy in bull markets. So make sure you take profits, take something. And in case we do go down 50, 60, 70%, we have a little bit of dry powder to buy the 4-year cycle. All right, Vance is next in line, says Michael. So much can change, Michael. There's a lot that can change. So this is how, usually I don't get political, but this is how I see it going. All right. Usually when you get close to midterms, a lot of stuff happens, a lot of chaos happens, right? Especially whenever you break into like the year that the presidential cycle happens, where people are voting. The Democrats, they have a track record. Like let's say, in 2019 with George Floyd, right, where you have pandemonium and chaos and cities are burning and you're striking fears in the hearts of the people. People come out and vote. They don't forget, right? So right now it looks like, especially with what happened with Charlie Kirk, it looks like the Republicans have it in a bag, right? But I would not underestimate anything that can happen to manipulate what is going on. You even look, for example, think about whenever Trump was shot at, right? I'm hoping YouTube doesn't come through and censor this video, but I would say like 80 to 90% of Americans knew that he was going to win, right? 6 months pass, voting happens, and not that many people remember that moment. So there's a lot of times that happen right before the elections where something crazy happens and it changes the tides. So that's something to consider. I think JD Vance, full disclosure, I think he's a very smart person and he would probably do very well with the country. But again, I would not be surprised to see something happening between now and then that puts, the left in like this balance, because there's no more pandering for, all these different issues. You can't just go out and get like a black woman, for example. You can't use LGBTQ, all that stuff to pander for votes anymore. You have to come up with immigration policies. You have to figure out how to fight against possibly capitalism. You have to start, using your platform to make change. And again, those are just my personal takes on it. We'll see where we're headed going into 2028, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't consider this one in a bag just yet. Crux, I need your help. Super allocated into Keeta and need more Morpho Aviant. Would you just swap now since I'm down? All right, so Keeta had a sell-off because of the mainnet, and then also had the sell-off because of the recent negative price action. Aviant as well. Aviant's a brand new crypto. I would not be selling Aviant or Keeta right now. Morpho didn't have the massive sell-off. Aviant actually is much closer to its all-time high than Morpho is. So yesterday I actually bought some Aviant. Morpho, I think, is a solid play. The thing about like borrowing and lending, decentralized exchange plays. So borrowing, lending, decentralized exchange plays, and trading are all happening on the same platforms today. We're starting to get these super apps like Aster and like Aviant, and how as like Morpho or Aerodrome or Moonwell or all these different decentralized exchanges like Jupiter, for example, do you compete with these super apps? So we're starting to see like this new fad come into crypto, and it is influencing all of these things. So what I'm not telling you to do is go sell your Morpho, sell your Aerodrome, and sell these plays, but keep your eyes on the Asters and the Aviants of the world, because these things are coming out of the woodworks. And I would not fade them. So because the one-stop shop for everything crypto related is probably where the masses are going to go, as long as they're giving you the best yield, etc. So the only way that Morpho is going to be able to compete is if you give them the best yield. Dread says you're on spot. Crux, yeah, appreciate it. This is just me being transparent with you guys. Again, I don't get very political on here, but again, I would not consider any political party victors of the next cycle just yet. Those events are what manipulate the masses. Yeah, Tony. For example, there's cases like George Floyd that are probably happening very often. I'm not saying, black men are constantly being attacked or whatever, but the reason that one blew up the way it did is because the left used it as a tool to pander and to gain votes. And I think that's, at this point, that's non-disputable. They're able to pander. They got people to get out to the streets. They were all over Fox. They were all over CNN, and they did what they had to do to get people to take action, which is vote. So that's why Trump did not win in 2020. So something to consider is they have a complete different take. Political theater, says Tony. Yeah. All right. I'm done with politics. Just hope Elizabeth Warren doesn't become president. She will not be good for crypto. I can't stand her. Her takes on crypto. So one thing I agree with her. I will say one thing. I don't think Trump should be using his platform to be pushing crypto projects. So for example, he has not publicly stated Trump token, right? He's not using quote unquote his platform to push these tokens, WLFI for example, but he has launched Trump token a day before taking office because he knew it would have been illegal if he was president when it happened, right? So to me, something's illegal, you do it just in that time frame, and to me, it rubs me wrong. It's like you knew it was wrong, but you got by because you know the law. So personally, I'm okay with people abusing the law because at that point, it's like, it is what it is. Everyone, especially with the high net worth, is going to abuse the law. So Trump shouldn't be held responsible for it. But I'm just not like with WLFI, he launches this crypto, 10 bill market cap, it dumps massively. And I told you guys before it dropped to be careful because the insiders got a day early. I am paying attention to what Donald Trump is doing. And Elizabeth Warren is the one person over there that is calling him out on it. And, again, I'm not putting any alliance to any one person. I'm just going to speak publicly on how I think about the space. Overall, I think Donald Trump's a good person for crypto. But I agree with Tony Rosas. I should be the crypto czar. I should be able to replace David Sachs. Put one in chat if I should replace David Sachs with these takes. I know they're controversial, but they're me, they're mine, and I own up to it. So crypto czar, for those that don't know, is a new political position that Trump assigned this year after his presidency started. And they are overseeing not just crypto, but AI as well. And that's what I like to do. I like to spend my time learning about AI and crypto. And how do we profit off of this? How do we change the world for the better? Trizzle says his team told him like any other bigwig. Yeah, Trizzle, I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of ones in chat. There are a lot of ones. So you guys, maybe I'll run for president. We'll see. Or at least crypto czar. I'm not going to get too carried away with that one. All right. Let's jump into the big news of the day, and then we'll wrap this up. Guess what? This is for my no. Here we are. Boom. We got Kaspa smart contracts happening here in the next 9 hours. Well, 9 hours, 45 minutes, and it's counting down. For those that don't know, smart contracts allow a layer 1 to be programmable. This allows you to do DeFi. It allows you to do gaming. It allows you to tokenize real world assets. Allows you to do AI. It allows you to do everything on a network other than become peer-to-peer or create meme coins. So Casplex, this is one of the two companies behind smart contracts currently being deployed on Kaspa. The other one is IGRA Labs, which by the end of the year, maybe IGRA will have theirs deployed. I actually trust IGRA a lot more than Casplex, but Casplex, they're the ones who brought us KRC20 tokens. So just like I mentioned earlier, currently we can produce meme coins, and we can be a settlement layer for peer-to-peer transactions, which is cool. I mean, that's what Satoshi set out for, is the peer-to-peer transactions. Clearly, they're not the meme coins. But once you give a token a use, you have to be able to program it. And that's why meme coins are front runners. They don't have to wait for programmability because it's just a token that represents community. But these other tokens like AI, you need to be able to program them, especially being able to lock stuff behind liquidity pools and stuff like that. So all the biggest use cases require smart contracts. Is this going to send the price of Kaspa like to the moon? No, it's not. You're going to have to let Kaspa continue to lock in liquidity. And I've been very vocal about this within the Kaspa community is pay attention to what Cardano has done. Cardano has shot itself in the foot looking to be pioneers of their own chain, trying to create USDM instead of integrating USDC or a USDT or even a RLUSD. So they try to create their own products and it has failed. So Kaspa, if we just go after Aave and if we just go after Chainlink, I would be okay with that. That's an oracle. We need an oracle. We need a DeFi play. Aave is by far the best with 35 billion total value lock. And I think that's all we really need. The third biggest thing would be a stable coin. So if we can plug like an RLUSD or something like that, I would love it. But the Kaspa community, we're super bullish on doing everything ourselves. And we think that we can just do it all. And I'll tell you, the institutions that are running this cycle, you have to compete with Sui. You have to compete with Hyperliquid and all these other plays, and it's going to be very difficult to compete without institutions. So Bitcoin, they've been successful. You know, they chased a completely different narrative in terms of store of wealth. Kaspa, again, I'm going to still be very open about this. We need to have interoperability on the chain, or it's going to take us either way longer to be fully accepted, or we don't win out in the end. So what are your thoughts on Kaspa? I know that's a very bold take. You probably don't want to hear it, but you know, those are just my thoughts, raw thoughts. All right, two things. I talked about my Keeta video. This drops tomorrow. Very happy. Recorded today. Editor has it now. And then 4 p.m. Eastern Standard on Friday. Tomorrow it will drop. And then the next video will drop early next week. So this is going to be the 3 coins that I'm buying on this dip. So give your takes. What do you think these 3 coins are going to be in the comments? And I mean, I know 2 out of the 3. If it's one of those, I will say yes, but I won't tell you which one it is. So go ahead and give your takes. What are 3 plays that Crux is looking to buy during this dip? All right. So I've been live for, what, 77 minutes now? Pushing 80 minutes. Concurrence slowly dropping off, so I'm not going to stand here and continue to ramble. I gave my take for the day. If you guys need to go back, I'll do timestamps here shortly, because I know you guys want to come back and quickly be able to access some of this information. So I'll jump in over there here in a second. And Kaspa full is Satoshi's vision. Yes, Carl, I think Kaspa has completed Satoshi's vision. I heard Toshi is Satoshi. I heard the Toshi laugh out loud in Satoshi. Oh yeah, I mean I like Toshi, that base meme coin. Cas at 3 to 5 cents pile in. I would love for Kaspa to go to 3 cents. All right, give us 1 says Trizzle. Oh yeah, I did also talk about Mamo earlier. Okay, so real quick, let me go over Mamo. MAMO is the ticker. So this play is probably closer to about 5 cents or maybe even lower. 5 cents. All right, so you have a sub 20 mil market cap project built by the founder of Moonwell, the second biggest exchange on Base Network, and a co-founder of the Base ecosystem. So, you know, I think there's a lot of potential still here. You know, this is definitely not a overly bullish chart, but if you go all the way back here, you see there's a good amount of support going from like mid-June all the way to late June, early July. And hopefully this will act as support because, you know, sub 20 mil, this is a gem. This is something that's strong fundamentally. You know, again, I would not have even 1% of my portfolio in something like this. Super speculative. But these type of plays, they could break into the multiple 100 mil market caps. So just to get to 100 mil market cap, that's over a 5x. You know, if it gets to 500 mil, you know, that's a much higher. So these are the type of risks you have to take to make the big gains in crypto. I'm very bullish on Mamo still. And yeah, I'm going to continue to say I think AI agents are the future. And this is a leading AI agents over there on the Base network. All right. somebody asked, what are the 3 coins that I'm buying? I mean, honestly, I want to say, let's go back to, I want to say Keeta, but I could be very wrong because I'll probably be recording that video on probably tomorrow, and I really want to take time before I confirm that call. But Keeta probably will be a top 3 crypto if it continues to be below 60 cents. I think like right now is just so primed for pickup. It's basically the best asymmetric play in crypto right now. Sub 300 mil market cap. Anything other than that, you are in the green going into the future, not financial advice. All right, so I think I answered enough questions there. You know, I am Crux with the Crux of Crypto. Tuesday, Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standards. I bring the alpha live, bring the questions, join our free Discord. Make sure you like, subscribe, set the alerts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.